And true to form, my voice is going, so I will limp on ahead. It's great to be here. I've had a couple of years where I've not attended. Prior to that, I think I'd been to every single one of these events. But this is quite a special one for me because it's the first time that I'm representing Scotland and not England. So I'm very proud to be here representing Peatland ACTION today and telling you a little bit about our project. So as Heather said, we work very closely with Scottish Government. Our funding comes through the Scottish Government Climate Change Plan for Net Zero, with a commitment to invest £250 million into peatland restoration. Now, those sorts of figures, when I started peatland restoration I'm not going to say how many years ago, is eye-popping. You know, we were lucky to get a few grand here and there, and many of us in the room know how difficult it's been to bring these Cinderella sites into the fore, but these days they really are the powerhouses that change, you know, all of our plans in the fight for carbon sequestration. So Peatland ACTION, what is Peatland ACTION? We are a fantastic programme of collaboration, as Heather says. We're the lead partner in NatureScot. We work together with our partner organisations. And within Peatland NatureScot, we actually also work with further organisations. So we have 10 project officers within NatureScot, but we also have another 10 embedded in organisations all over Scotland, which allows us to have an enormous reach across Scotland. And as Heather said, we also work with the national parks, both Cairngorm and Loch Lomond, Forest Land Scotland, and Scottish Water. So what have we achieved? I had great fun doing this graph. I do love a graph. You can see that it's growing. Every year it gets more and more and more, and every year we just think, God, can we really keep doing this? And like Heather said, last year we absolutely smashed it. We didn't expect to do quite as well as we did, but we exceeded our target enormously. We've done this through a number of different ways. We're constantly evolving how we do things, working to make things more and more efficient, and sharing that good practice. But you can see from the map here that there's not much of Scotland we're not covering. If it's got peat, we're there. We're trying to make a difference. So the ambition for the partnership this year, like Heather said, is 12,000 hectares. And so far we've got excavators on the ground, we've got ditches being blocked and things being reprofiled, and so far it's looking pretty good. I don't know if you can see all of that slide, have a glance at the other ones, but this is just a little example of how we keep upscaling, how we increase that pace and scale. It's kind of a little circle of evolution of Peatland ACTION. We can't really afford to take our foot off the gas because, you know, there is so much to do. Let's start with demand. I mean, this starts really with our comms team that are out there making case studies all the time, spreading the word of what we do, creating guidance and things to really inspire those landowners to come forward. We hold an awful lot of events where we talk to landowners, we engage with Scottish, SLA, I've just forgotten what it stands for, ever so sorry. So we work with the major land groups across Scotland, as well as crofting groups and so on, to really try and engage people. We have a workforce development team. This was quite amazing to me, that I came to this team and we actually got a whole team dedicated to working with contractors, training contractors, doing demonstrations on ground, training project officers. So there's actually, you know, that entire workforce plan. I know that a few years ago I was thinking, well, how on earth is the sector ever going to respond to this? It's such a huge target. But it's a bit of, if you build it, they will come. If we give them multi-year projects, then the contractors and the market will respond. And that is so important, that we keep that pipeline going and we keep those multi-year projects going. We introduced a competitive application process a couple of years ago, which for us internally meant there was a huge glut of work in one part of the year. But actually it was really good because that allowed us to lever in then that private finance, because we could actually start to incentivize. If you actually bring in private finance, you can actually bring, you know, we can actually kind of rank the projects according to risk and quality, but also cost, because obviously we've only got so much money, so we need that money to come in to make it go further. On the design side, so this is much more within the delivery team, which I sit. We de-risk the design of projects through something called the Project Development Support Scheme. So we did a pilot a couple of years ago and we just relaunched it this year. And this is something where we actually set aside money to pay £75 a hectare to design a project, to a certain criteria, obviously. And then that's to be brought into application the following year. So we've got a target of 14,000 hectares that we've awarded this year, which will come in next year. So that's actively paying for the design of projects, which keeps that pipeline running. We've also brought in an expression of interest, which actually allows us to talk to people pre-application. So instead of them just putting in an application blind, we can talk to them up front and give them a bit of a steer of whether or not that project's got risks in it or opportunities that they may have missed. All of these just improve the design and the quality of projects at the end of the day, and it keeps that pipeline going. Then there's the delivery, which is pretty much, you know, the biggest part of the team. We're a team of approximately 50, and nearly half of that is the delivery team. So that's an excellent team of project officers that are out there all the time, either delivering their own projects, working with agents, or working with landowners to bring those projects to the fore. And we work very closely with the technical team as well, and they help us with all sorts of problem solving to do with protected species, or whether it's something to do with planning and so on. So it's a very collaborative team where we all work together to get to those important goals. Finally, then there's the monitoring, and we've got Nicola here today who's from our data and evidence team. So these guys are really important in checking that what we do works. So doing monitoring on actual sites, but also checking in the figures that when people put in the claims and say, well, we've done 100 hectares, well, have you really? These are the guys that go out and make sure, have we actually done what we say we're doing? And we're constantly striving to actually improve that data and evidence so that we can be a lot more robust about our figures. On that, we're also developing a new aftercare program. So this is hopefully going to start running next year, where we're going to actually start proactively monitoring the aftercare visits. So our project officers and technical officers, and probably data officers as well, will go out maybe year 2 or year 7 or something like that, just to check that this restoration is on plan, and actually we haven't got any problems. And if there are problems, can we look at addressing them early rather than waiting until they fail? I think that is about what all I was going to say. We still have an awful lot to do. We've achieved so far 90,000 hectares since 2012, and as you can see, or from the previous slide, the trajectory has just been astronomical as we've all worked together. But yeah, that's pretty much where we are. So look forward to your questions.